episode 3 of Win or Learn. My name is Paul of PGGS Music. Thank you for tuning in today. Thank you again as well for the feedback on the first couple of episodes. It's been really great. Obviously it's a bit of a learning curve as I'm going, but so far so good, and people's responses have been really positive, so that's great. So today's guest is Janine of Bovidae, also previously of Mother of Crows and currently of the Bow contingent. Now there is a small caveat on this one because if you follow me on any form of social media, you may have noticed the fact that I've recently joined Bovidae. But it's a fun little story, in so much as I've gone from I've been the one fan, as I've been often been described, to joining the band, which is really nice. But it's okay, don't panic. A new fan has been recruited, in the form of Marie, obviously. So
yes.
It's all good. So, Janine, thank you for coming
Hello.
on the show. How are you today?
I'm alright, yes. It's been a busy day, but, I'm here.
Powering through.
Yes, I'm fine, yes. I've got my caffeine.
Yeah.
It'll be good.
We've both got various forms of Pepsi, not sponsored, so we're going to be all good. So
yeah.
Cool. So just to remind people of the premise and the format, as the name kind of suggests, Win or Learn. It's about talking to musicians, learning about victories they've had and how those came about, or where things haven't quite gone to plan to a greater or less extent, and kind of the lessons that they've taken away from that, and that may have helped to pay for successes down the line. So would you like to start with the win side or the learn side? What do you think?
Well, as a fellow music teacher, learns are wins. I think we have to point out that
Yes.
learns are wins. So I have 5 things,
Okay.
and they're all, well, 2 of them I think are wins, and 3 of them fall more into the learns. But they're both, there's a big overlap.
Yeah.
There's a big overlap.
Cool. Well,
We may as well start with a win.
okay, go
Because
for it.
the book's open.
Awesome.
No, I'm not reading this, but I did make notes. So yeah, my first and biggest win to date is overcoming stage fright, which for me is massive, and I think anybody who's a musician probably has experienced stage fright to some degree at some point during their career. But for me, it seemed to get like a lot worse the older I got, and especially after the pandemic and having so long off from performing, and it started to become really crippling, like to the point where I was throwing up before gigs.
Crikey.
I was avoiding speaking to people for the whole day before a gig. I'd just like lock myself away and just watch episodes of MasterChef on repeat, just because I couldn't function, and it was like really crippling.
Yeah.
And it was just stopping me from getting anything done, and it was stopping me from enjoying it. And I was getting sweaty hands, and I was just feeling like the whole performance I was just on edge.
Which particularly as a pianist, that's not really going to be very helpful.
It's really not helpful. Sweaty hands and shaky hands is just, it's the worst. I mean, it's bad whatever instrument you play.
Yeah.
But, it was just ruining it for me. And it got to the point where I was thinking, why do I even do this? And I did try absolutely everything. People would say, oh, just, imagine all the audience were naked, or,
I've never understood that one.
It's weird.
I mean,
That's not going to help. That's going to make me more sick.
yeah, and particularly, because not to tar too much of a brush, but being in the metal genre, we're not noted for our looks. We're noted for our
of the average, but I can't talk, but still, it's there was things like that. I had one friend who's a hypnotherapist who did me she really kindly did me a whole tape, which did help to an extent, and I did listen to it. I remember being backstage at Tribfest, which is like a big open air festival with all tribute bands, and we were playing on the main stage, and I remember just being in the tent, and there was just me on the sofa with the headphones in, trying to kind of meditate and imagine I was in this forest and whatever, while there was an ABBA tribute band just setting up, and it was just really like, I kind of was annoyed at myself that I had to do that, because I thought, like, I should be kind of taking this experience in, and instead I'm just sat here with my eyes closed, not meeting anyone, not kind of enjoying the atmosphere of being backstage at a big festival, just sitting here on my own, I took loads of calms tablets, which did help, What else did I do? I've written it all down. What else did I do? I basically did like loads of preparation. I'd try and recreate this kind of environment of the gig. So, I mean, I did it with Bovidae before you joined, actually.
Yeah.
We did a gig once, and there was a strobe light, and it really threw me and Danny off, because playing piano or drums with a strobe light on, not good.
No.
It's really hard. So we had a practice the next week, and I was like, right, we're going to practice with the light off so that we can practice playing without seeing. And, you know, like we did like some stuff like that. I don't know if many bands do that, but I still think it's a bit weird. But
Yeah, I did have a band where we did, because we played a few venues where it was literally like, you may as well have the lights on, lights off, sorry.
Yeah.
So we did try a few practices in the dark, and they were not as bad as you might expect. So.
No, it's amazing what you do. You can do by without, you know, without your eyesight, but still, it's not, you know, I did other things preparation-wise where I once did a gig where there was no piano stool. I was on another piano. There was no piano stool, and I was on a really low chair, and I had to like roll some coats up to kind of make myself a normal height. And then so I was like, right, that was awful. So then I went away and I was like, how can I prepare for that in future? So I literally practiced at my piano with a little chair.
Yeah.
Just because I was like, I'm not going to be thrown off by this. I couldn't have anything upset my performance, because it would upset it.
Yeah.
And now I'm at the point where those kind of things don't bother me. And it wasn't like a sudden moment where I was like, oh, why am I not bothered about this anymore? Part of it is a bit of a sad reason, because I did have quite a big personal tragedy last year, and it did make me kind of think, none of this really matters.
Yeah.
You know, but it was just a gradual thing. I did a masterclass with Mike Garson, you know, David Bowie's pianist, and he talked quite a lot about stage fright, and he said that the way that he deals with it is to just imagine that it is this, well, not to imagine, because it is, but to think of it as a shared musical experience, as opposed to being a performer to an audience.
Yeah.
Like, as in, you're all enjoying this music, you're all experiencing it together. And I think it did help like that. And along with the kind of whole, like, oh, none of this really matters, made me kind of start to think about performances in a different way.
So was it a kind of a gradual combination of all the things you were trying then?
Yeah, I think so. And just time and perseverance. And also joining another band in the form of the Mother of Crows, which I was in for a couple of years. They gig they go through spurts of gigging prolifically.
Yeah.
And because of that, I just got a lot more practice, I think.
Yeah.
I remember there was one weekend where I did back-to-back gigs with the Bowie contingent and then Mother of Crows. And it was such a different experience, because the night that I did the Bowie contingent gig was a home gig, and I was really nervous. And then I did a Mother of Crows gig in Wales the next day, and I didn't feel any stage fright. And it was like, well, what's the difference here? Is it because it's not people I know? Or is it because they're original songs, so nobody knows how they go?
Yeah.
That's one of the good things about Bovidae, is nobody knows when you go wrong.
Exactly.
You don't even know yourself.
Woodus Lyon said that's how it was meant to go, so...
Yeah.
Or it's a reimagining.
Honestly, like, people... I think because of the way that the songs are written, I don't think people, even if they hear the songs multiple times, can really recognise. I mean, my ex-boyfriend used to come to a lot of Bovidae gigs, and I remember he once said to me, oh, I like that one that you played second. Is that a new one? And I was like, we've literally played that song at every gig. Just that's how memorable they are.
Well, that'll, you know, you fully embrace the jazz spirit that lives behind it, so...
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, so that was my first win anyway, is overcoming stage fright, and I'm sure, yeah, it's something I'm really proud of, and it's nice to now be in the situation where I actually enjoy playing the piano in front of other people.
Yeah, you can relish the moment rather than all the dread and anticipation.
Yeah, and by an extension of that is, like, I think it makes me feel more relaxed and come across as more relaxed, which then makes your audience relaxed. It's something that I try and teach my students is, you know, if you look anxious playing, then I feel anxious watching you, and therefore, you know, it's not a nice experience for anyone. Whereas if the person who's performing is like, yeah, I'm chilled out, whatever happens, happens, you know, I got this, then it makes me think, oh, they've got this.
Yeah.
You know, it's okay. It's okay. I can now just relax.
And that ties into that kind of shared experience kind of approach that you were mentioning about.
Yeah.
So like if they're looking stressed, I'm feeling stressed, then they'll see me looking stressed about the...
Oh, yeah. It's just a whole
horrible
horrible
symbiosis.
cycle. But there there you go. So yeah, that's my first win.
Very good, and I'm sure that will be one that a lot of people listening will be able to relate to, because I had a bit of advantage that I started performing at a very, very young age, like doing musical theatre and whatnot. So I've never really experienced stage fright, like a handful of times when it's a big gig type thing. But generally speaking, I'm just like after the races. But I know there's a lot of people who either it's been a long time since they performed, or it's a case of like it's all that thinking, what if?
Yeah.
Usually, what if I mess up?
And actually, nothing happens if you mess up. Like, I remember my partner said to me, because he's in the Bowie contingent with me, and I remember once I was saying to him, we've played at that such and such a venue before, don't you remember? And he went, oh, is that the gig where I made that really wrong note in Sweet Thing? And I remember thinking, well, I don't remember that. And he was like, no, it was a really bad note. It was the worst note of the whole gig. And I remember thinking, you're the only person that remembers that, and it's something that's true for all of us. I remember my mistakes, but nobody else does.
No.
It's not like anybody's going to wake up the next morning and go, oh, do you remember when we went to that gig and Janine played the wrong note? Like, nobody cares that much.
Yeah.
It's fine.
And if they do, they're probably not someone you want to talk to anyway.
Exactly. If they care that much, that's their problem.
Yeah, that's very much a them thing. Cool. That's a nice one to start with.
Good.
So what's next on the docket?
Right. Okay. Well, we'll do a learn, shall we? Shall we balance them?
Yeah.
Let's go one at a time. This one might come across as a controversial one.
Oh.
So one of my learns is be selective about what you do for free as a musician, which is something that has definitely been a thing I have learned since becoming a full-time musician a few years ago.
Yes.
Because what you do for free as a musician who's just gigging at the weekends, maybe you don't expect to get paid or anything like that. But when it's your only income, I do think you have to be a little bit more astute about what you do and what you agree to do for free.
Yeah.
Because your time is your income at that point. This kind of became something I started to think about after a particularly disastrous charity gig that I did with a band a couple of years ago. Now, I'm not going to say what the gig was because I don't want to drop anyone. But basically, we'd agreed to do a gig for free for charity, and we were promised bed and board at the venue. It was about a 2.5 hour drive away. We got there. Turned out they didn't have the hotel didn't have any kind of rooms for us. It had not been planned at all. The promoter said that we could stay at his house, but we were like a 6-piece band, and we weren't the only people on the bill, and he basically told everyone they could stay at his house, and we were like, this was supposed to be a nice gig.
Yeah.
We weren't going to take any money away from it, but it was going to be a nicer way, and we were supposed to have, bed and board and a nice, slap-up meal in the morning,
Yeah, so, it's a zero on the books, isn't it?
It was exactly that, but it ended up just being the biggest nightmare. In the end, we ended up having to travel back from that gig the same night because we didn't want to stay in some stranger's house.
With 7 eye.
It was like, so we ended up driving back. We didn't get back to Sheffield till like 3 or 4 in the morning. It was just horrendous. There had been no advertising for the gig as well. I promised to do like a solo set in advance, and it was basically watching me. There was like one dog and it was just barking. Right, and then there was a few people there, but they had the Grand National on the telly, so I was basically fighting for spotlight with the Grand National, and it was just horrendous. And we'd agreed to do it for charity, but it did start me thinking about musicians are always expected to offer their services for free for charity, and actually nobody else who was involved in putting that event on will have worked for free that day.
Yeah.
Everybody else, the sound engineer will have got paid, the bar staff got paid, the venue earned money as well, and it was like, it's like probably the people who need the money the most out of everybody. You can still put a charity event on and still pay your musicians.
Yeah.
Obviously, smaller charities might not be able to, and I'm not saying I would never do a charity gig, but it has to be something that's close to my heart.
Yeah.
And you can't say yes to everything.
No.
You really can't. And little nightmare events like that, really kind of made me think, you can't just say yes. You know, the word charity doesn't mean an automatic, yes, I'll do it for free.
Yeah.
So that's something. I know it makes me sound a bit mean, but...
No, well, when it is your profession.
But exactly, yeah. You've got to be, you know, you've got to think, you know, why can't you pay me?
Yeah.
You know, even if it's not very much, you think, well, you're probably paying everyone else, so...
Yeah.
Pay your entertainment as well.
Even with simple things like fill up the tank.
Yeah, or just don't make us stay on the floor of some randomer's house.
Yeah,
you know,
with every band on the bill.
Exactly, like we're musicians in our 30s, 40s and 50s. Like, it's not like we're just like teenagers that are fine slumming it, you know. We need proper beds.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my first learn.
Yeah. I suppose having that kind of, particularly obviously, as you say, with having gone fully self-employed musician in the last few years, obviously, you know, as much as obviously the music is fun and the teaching is enjoyable and seeing people kind of develop and kind of having those little moments is great, you also got to go, but I also got bills to pay.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it can all be fun, but it also needs to pay. So.
Exactly. Yeah, and I'm happy doing a few things for free. You know, just like everybody is, but. You know, I think there have been times where people have taken advantage of that. And, something that is... obviously, you know, you have to learn that.
Yes.
And I did learn it the hard way at that time. But, you know, next time I'll be a little bit more cautious before I just say yes to everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I think that's I don't think it's quite as controversial as you feel.
Okay. On another note, though, however, if you have a guinea pig charity, I will do anything... for free.
I will curate the whole bill.
Yeah, I don't mind. If it's for guinea pigs, then yeah, I'm your woman.
Oh, imagine doing a fundraiser for KV Corner. That'd be great.
I've always wanted to do that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll be at KV Corner. If you're listening to this, I don't think they will.
I don't know why they would, but still.
Still, we'll be in touch. Bovidae presents.
Yes.
Awesome. Cool. So, if we're going to flip the coin again.
Let's do it. Okay. Might as well do another win then, I guess.
Yeah, go on then.
Right. Let's have a look. My next win. This is one that my partner jokingly said that I should put down when I was discussing this with him the other day. He's like, well, you met me. And yeah, so it's not just that. It's not gone all mushy, but obviously it's an industry where it's kind of like a job combined with your passions, but it does mean you get to meet some cool people.
Yeah.
And, you know, present company... You know, included, I've met some of my best mates and I've met my partner through, you know, music. So that's obviously a massive win, you know, and it's what it's all about, really.
Exactly, yeah, because, again, that shared experience on both sides of the coin, be it with the audience or be it with the people who are supporting you to be in front of that audience.
And as well, like, especially in bands and stuff, it is like a little family. Then you have all these adventures with the family and... You know, some of them, even if they're dreadful at the time, they are hilarious anecdotes for later on. And I did put a little note. I've put a little dash and then I've put sleeping under a toilet mat. Just to remind me to tell you that story. I think I've probably told you this story before, but I'll say it again anyway. But yeah, basically, it's just, this story just symbolises like how even the worst... experiences, if you've got the right people, you will laugh about them later.
Yes.
And I mean, so when Danny, the Bovidae drummer, and I were in a previous band together called Evening Meal and the After Party, we did a gig, and I think it was in Huddersfield, but I can't remember. But anyway, we ended up staying at this house afterwards, and there was no bed for us, and it was just a nightmare. You know when somebody says, oh, you can crash at my house, but then they don't have any beds?
Yeah.
You're just like, well, why have you said that? There was not even any blankets, no heating. It was freezing. And I remember we were like trying to find any sort of covering in the house to kind of, because we were freezing. And Danny and I ended up finding one of those, you know, those little semicircle mats that you get around the toilet?
Yeah.
Yeah, we slept under one of those. It was awful, Paul. It was the worst. Yeah, I thought to myself, this has got to be one of the lowest moments of my musical career, is sleeping under a toilet mat. But it's funny now.
Yeah.
And that's the point. The point is it's funny now.
Yeah, hindsight's a wonderful thing.
Exactly. But yeah, so even though it was a really, really bad, you know, moment, and I've got loads of diabolical stories like that. about, dreadful places that we've ended up sleeping, or, times where we've not had anywhere to sleep at all.
Yeah.
It's, gigs that have been not planned the best. But yeah, it's once you've got that family, and it's just, it just becomes another thing that you can laugh about together afterwards. And I think that's, that's important.
Absolutely.
It makes it all worthwhile.
Exactly, yeah. It's nice that you mentioned that, because my pilot and the 2 episodes I've done already all have encompassed that idea as well. So, talking to Educator Dagger, they were talking about doing a US tour that they did. Basically, they got offered our show, and they're like, let's try and make this work for like a whole tour.
Yeah.
But none of them were old enough, none of the band were old enough to drive, so they took all their partners with them, one of whom was old enough, and the others basically were a crew.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so that kind of thing. And
I love that that's like such like a glamorous example, and then my examples, I slept under a toilet man in Huddersfield. Your calibre of guest is definitely, I'm sorry, this is the low point of the podcast.
It's a spectrum, and on the pilot I talked about, obviously you'll be familiar with tramlines. I talked about the fact that a few years back I did I took a page out of the Fire Garden Regulars book, and I did 4 gigs in 24 hours.
I remember you saying that, because Fire Garden always do that. How do they do it?
Well, that's why they're on like 600 gigs or whatever they're on, so shout out to Jake and the boys.
Hello!
And the fact that my lovely wife Kathy came to all those shows, drove me to all the ones at her offering, but still, that kind of thing, we can't do the thing we love to do without the people we love supporting.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's a big family.
Yeah.
And also just meeting people that you can do musical things with outside of, the band. There's the times like where you can just like jam along, write songs with other people, or just talking about music and stuff. But yeah, it's just like a big family, and I just think that, obviously meeting Chris, and obviously all my Bovidae family, and, my Bowie family, and my Mother of Crows previous family, but they're still family. It's all,
Good visitation rights.
Well, once a crow, always a crow. It is... it has been said.
I can exactly imagine somebody saying that. So.
Yeah, so, I think I still...
I already leave.
No, exactly. Oh, God, that sounds dreadful, but yes, basically.
I won't attempt to do Sylvia's accent. I'm not that brave.
No, she'll kill you. And rightly so.
Yeah, rightly so. No, I very much like that one. That rings very true. So...
Yeah. That's my second and last win, although I guess my other learn... Well, I've got two other learns, but one of them probably is led quite nicely, having mentioned Mother of Crows. I guess that probably leads into my next learn quite nicely.
Cool.
And that is, you can't do everything. And it's a sad fact, and it's something that I've learned very recently, is that you can't say yes to everything. And it's a really, it's frustrating that there aren't enough hours of the day or evenings in the week to rehearse and gig, but I have recently found that 3 bands was just too much, which sadly did mean that I had to leave one, and it did end up sadly being the Mother of Crows. And it wasn't an easy decision to make at all, but I took too much on, basically. I've spent the last couple of years saying yes to pretty much every offering of work or performance that I could get. Partly just to try and, push myself to keep overcoming my stage fright, and push myself to try new things and to branch out into different areas of music, because obviously it all makes you a better musician.
I suppose it helps get as well your brand as well.
Exactly. The more things you do, the more different people, because obviously Mother of Crow's audience is very different from the Bovidae audience, so it does get you in front of a different, group of people. There's probably not that much overlap, except maybe me. Me and my immediate family are probably the only people that's an overlap for. But so it does get you in front of other people. It's different styles of music, different ways of performing, different stages, different venues, and everything like that. But on the flip side, it's just you can't do everything. I've got to the point now where I'm having to just turn things away, and I'm trying to be a bit more, take a breath before saying yes to everything, because I do that thing where I say yes and then like I hate letting people down so much. Like I really hate having to go, oh, you know, I said I'd do that thing but now I can't because I've not got any time for it. So I'm trying to like avoid that by not saying yes in the first place, I guess.
Sounds like a bit of balancing out kind of what the heart wants and what the head says.
Yeah, I want to do every musical opportunity that's thrown my way, but at the same time, like, that's not realistic. And I've neglected my own, like, you know, my own musical development in a way. Like, so I have piano lessons myself still.
Yeah.
And I haven't got any time to practice, which is dreadful as a piano teacher to say that, because, you know, I spend literally every day of my life going, have you practiced? Well, you won't get any breath better if you don't practice. And it's like, I'm a hypocrite, really, because I don't have time to practice at the moment, and it's annoying to me that I don't, because there's still a lot. I've still got a lot that I can develop as a pianist.
Yeah.
There's a lot out there that I've got absolutely, you know, such a long way to go before I achieve it, and I'm not going to get there if I don't, you know, put the time in. I need to put the hours in, and I just haven't for like a couple of years. And the same with my composing, you know, I try and snatch a few hours here and there, but again, it's something that if I want to do it, you know, properly and develop, then I need to put that time in, and, you know, sacrifices have to be made, sadly.
Indeed.
Yeah. So that's my other learn. It's a sad learn, really. But yeah, you can't be good at everything if you do it all at once. You know, something has to give at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So
it's not a show that I've watched that much of, but I've seen bits of clips of it, which is Parks and Recreation.
oh, I used to love that.
And that's reminded me, there's a quote from Ron Swanson that I always comes to mind in those kind of situations, which is, don't half-ass two things, whole-ass one thing.
You know what? Ron is the best character in the
Yes.
whole thing. I need to watch it all again, actually.
And
Although I
it's
quite like Andy as well. It was great. Andy and April were brilliant. But Ron Swanson, what a legend. But yeah, it's a really good point. And I feel like that's maybe my 2024 is about whole-arsing fewer things.
That would be a great name for a Bovidae song.
Whole-arsing fewer things.
Whole-arsing fewer things.
Yeah, it sounds kind of weird. Yeah.
Like most of our titles.
Yeah. Very true.
Yeah.
But there you go. So that's I've got one more learn, but yeah, I think that was my second learn. I don't know if you want a final learn.
Yeah, go for it.
I don't know. How much time have we got?
Oh, as long as I want to
done
put it
for
down.
so long.
No, it's all good. It's all good stuff. So yeah, I'll happily have the last one.
Okay. Well, the last one is more of a technical one, because obviously I've talked about like social things like performance and you know, stage fright and, you know, social aspects like meeting people and, you know, stuff like that. So I wanted to just touch upon something a bit more technical, and that is like composition skills.
Yeah.
Because that's something that, you know, it's an ongoing learn and an ongoing win.
Yes.
It's kind of a bit of both. But as somebody who writes for bands, I've written for bands since I was about 20, so that years.
Yeah.
That's how many years. Nearly 2 decades. But yeah, so obviously my composition skills, I think I hope have improved. One of the things that definitely was a big turning point, especially for Bovidae, was not to be scared of repeats, which is a weird thing to say, but I remember when Bovidae first started, which is over 10 years ago now, and we were writing the songs in Danny's bedroom, and you know, and we were like so worried about it being boring. You know, we were so concerned with being, oh, well, we've done that once, so we can't do it again.
Yeah.
You know, we've done that riff once, so now it's time for the next riff. And it was like, we were really worried about people getting bored. And then I remember we went to that, was it West Street Live did that Doom Lines or something?
Yeah.
And we were early on the bill, and we stuck around to watch the rest of the bands. And I can't even remember what bands they were on. But there was a lot of bands like Awooga and stuff like that. I think Awooga were on, I can't remember who else. But it was...
Polly Gilmore on the light.
Yeah, it was back in the day, well back in the day, but yeah, bands like that anyway. And obviously it's a lot of like post-rock, heavy, but very repetitive. You know, they get a riff, you get a groove, and you ride it, and you ride it for maybe, you know, a minute or two. And the audience love it. Absolutely love it. And I remember just watching the crowd and thinking, we needn't have been so bothered about not repeating our 10-second riff twice, because these people are listening to this riff go and go. And like, there was no, I needn't have been worried. And so I've always tried to be a bit, now when I write, I try and put myself a little bit more in the mindset of the audience and think, are you really going to be that bothered if I do this twice? Yeah. Sometimes, if it's a good riff, it deserves to be played a few times.
Well, as a wink and a nudge to ourselves, if it slaps, it slaps.
If it slaps, it slaps. And it needs to slap for a good length of time.
Yeah.
So, especially, you haven't learnt it yet, but the song that we're Hooves, which is the next song that we're going to be learning and putting together as a band, there's a if I do say so myself, there's a really lovely chord progression in the middle, which I wrote. little bit of self-congratulatory stuff there. Yeah, there's a really nice chord progression in the middle, and I remember thinking, like, I'll put that in twice. And then I was like, 3 times. So I'm going, there's going to be a point where I go too far, I think, and people might be like, Janine, it's become boring now.
Janine, 64 reps is plenty.
Yeah, Janine, this song's gone on for 20 minutes now. Oh God, make it stop. But no, I think that's something that I think is it was definitely a learn for me, and I think it has resulted in better songs, better structure songs, and songs that you actually can come away with remembering that riff.
Absolutely, yeah.
If you only hear it once, you can't remember it. Exactly. You need to write those things out. So yeah, that's definitely something in terms of my composition. It doesn't go so much for like my own, when I do classical piano composition.
Yeah.
That's a whole different ball game. That is definitely, you can't just keep repeating stuff, because the audience for a classical piano composition are unlikely to be really drunk at a gig,
grooving and
banging their heads and just like in their own little world. No, they're probably not going to be those people. So maybe you have to tailor them. And maybe in that situation you need to.
I suppose you get like motifs. You can drop things back in briefly. See, I know a few.
You can recycle things, definitely. I love recycling.
Yeah.
In all shapes and forms. Musical as well. But yeah, so that was my other learn.
Excellent stuff. That's fantastic. Well, yeah, and what's been really nice about this one is covered a lot of ground, and you kind of preempted a lot of things. I was going to be like, if I was going to ask any follow-on questions, I'd be like, oh no, you've got it. Cool.
Well, as I referred back to my stage fright, one of the things is over-prepare.
Yeah.
I can't get rid of that. I'm afraid that's a habit I've always got.
Obviously, I'm sure you're familiar with the 5P rule, so preparation prevents piss-poor performance.
No, I was thinking 5p. What? I was imagining a 5p piece then. Preparation prevents piss-poor performance. Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
It does. It does. But obviously there's other things that can cause piss-poor performance.
Oh, yes. Absolutely, yes.
Unfortunately, sometimes you can't avoid it.
You can't account for all the variables.
But it does. But yeah, I think overall it's definitely something that you should still do, whether you get stage fright or not. I'm not saying I don't prepare anymore.
Yeah.
But maybe I don't prepare to the obsessive and, unhealthy extent that I did before. Yeah. So there you go.
Excellent stuff. Cool. Well, that's been fantastic. So thank you much again for coming on, and for I know it feels a little bit kind of nepotism, getting basically the boss of my the boss of my band essentially. So
I'm not the boss.
You are the boss.
I am the boss.
Toad's the boss. So.
I'm not the boss, but
yeah. So thank you very much for coming on and for sharing those. And thank you very much to everyone who's been listening. And I love the fact that when I'm doing this bit, I talk to the recording devices like they're watching me.
Yeah, he's actually waving as well.
Yeah, I do wave at the end of them. It's there you go. So thank you very much for listening, and thank you for checking out Win or Learn. Thank you again for your time, Janine. And we'll be back next week with another exciting guest. Till then, bye-bye.
Bye.